All right, we can get started. Sean from Nerdtropolis, we can start with you.
All right, I'll kick it off with this. It's great to see all of you. Which one of y'all would most likely go on a real summer adventure, and who would immediately try to take a nap instead and relax all summer?
That's it depends on what the rest of the depends on what the fall has been like, I think.
I think Dan might take a nap, but he would make sure to get good content of it to post on his TikTok.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly.
He'd ask me to film his entire nap. Yeah.
Yes.
Can you put that into CapCut real quick for me?
Yes.
And then he'd hide a number.
Can you airdrop it to me?
Yeah, will you airdrop that to me? It needs to be good quality. It needs to be 4K.
I'm pretty confident I'd be a napper. Pretty confident I'd be a napper.
I would.
I go to Disneyland a lot.
I would go on a summer vacation to Brazil and have Vincent act like a king and take me everywhere. That's
Right.
The most famous man in Brazil.
most famous man in Brazil. My son,
Yeah.
Phineas.
We all have to go to Brazil together.
We went to Brazil for D23 with Vincent, and following him around felt like being in Justin Timberlake's Entourage. He is so famous.
It's like following you around in Disneyland, Dan.
Yeah.
Like, no,
Same thing.
trust me, Caroline, it's not.
Really?
Yes, I can go to Disneyland without security.
was the
Vincent
first
cannot
time
walk the streets of Brazil without security.
It was the first time they did D23 in Brazil. It was in Sao Paulo, and it was really, really awesome. I mean, the fans were incredible. They were really excited about the show. Like, they sang the whole theme song in English too, and like they were really excited about the show. They weren't
really
just
cool.
excited about me. They were very excited about me, but they were also
more excited about you.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to have a big summer adventure and not take a nap, the place to go would be Brazil with Vincent, because you'd never get any rest.
Yes.
There you go.
All right, Mariah from Starry Constellation.
Hi, Dan and Jeff, how did you balance bringing the show to a new audience while also maintaining what was loved about the original run?
Well, we really just wanted to make more of the same show. We tried not to make it feel different, but we wanted it to have sort of fresh energy. About half the writers' room are writers who were originally on the show, and half the writers' room are young writers a lot of whom grew up watching the show. And so the people who've had a break from the show for a while all came in with great new ideas. There's a bunch of stuff that was like, oh, why didn't we ever think of doing this back in the day? So we're just trying to keep to keep the feel of the show, because that's what I think the fans love about it.
We didn't want to reinvent everything. It was working fine before, and we just thought we should just keep doing what we've been doing.
And you were never right about the
Fortunately,
number of
Disney-
summer days, right? So it doesn't matter if now there's 208 days of summer vacation.
It is not.
We never checked that information. The 104 days was just something somebody said in a meeting that sounded like they knew what they were talking about, and I never went and looked it up.
And then worked really well in a theme song.
It sings well.
Yeah, it sings really well.
So we didn't change it when we found out there's only like 80.
And how many of the things that you didn't check actually turned out well, right? Like the color of platypus under black light or something like that. Isn't that like something, oh, we didn't check that, but we willed it into existence.
We willed it into existence. In 2020, David is talking about in 2020, they found out, the entire scientific community found out that if you put a platypus under UV light, they glow the color of Perry the platypus. They glow that exact teal.
But only if they're wearing a fedora.
The strangest thing that's ever happened in my life.
Seriously?
Yeah, no, they look like this. They look like this under a black
color of that guitar.
Yes, this is it. This is what they look like.
That was some scientist who said, wait a minute, I want to try something.
Well,
why was the scientist doing that?
I was going to say, what is some scientist with a light
trying to solve a crime?
No, they have recently found that a lot of animals have biofluorescence, not just bioluminescence. That they're different colors under. So they've started doing this, and platypuses look like Perry the platypus in UV light.
There's your platypus fact for the day.
That's way too long an answer to what's the smaller question.
Okay, I have one. When I was in Australia, because the show is so massive there, they gave me a special tour at this beautiful place and let me hold a platypus, which is nothing like my platypus. It has a scary killer piston, and it was like holding a porcupine. I was like, thank you so much for this honor.
Yes.
They're
That's fantastic. Now I have to go to Australia.
Oh, you're a king in Australia, so please do.
All right, great. Jamie from Sci-Fi Vision.
Hi, thanks for talking to us. So, what's it been like getting back into your characters after so long?
Well, we've sort of always been doing it a little bit. I think we've all sort of done stuff for the Chibi verse and for interstitials, right?
Yeah, I've played Phineas for 17, 18 years now. So Phineas has been a huge part of my life. And what's been wonderful about this show is that it has such an incredible audience. We've always had reasons to play these characters again, even in between the period where we stopped doing the episodes of the show and when we did the feature film in 2020, Candace Against the Universe, because we also did crossover episodes with Milo Murphy's Law, where I got to play Phineas again for that. I've worked on the Chibiverse, which is also on Disney Channel and Disney Plus. And so Phineas has never been too far away, but the first record that I ever had coming back to do new episodes of the show was definitely like an emotional experience. I was really moved and excited because, like I said, I mean, 17, 18 years is a really long time to do anything or to know someone. And I've known all these, these wonderful people I get to work with, and I've known this character for so long. And so it's been really fun getting to be back doing this job every week. I hope we get to forever. It's been amazing.
I had to do a 3-month deep dive to really try to recreate the essence and the subtextual context that I need to bring the Perry sound into life. So.
And that's actually that's a quote, like open quotations, DEE, closed quote, P, dive. That's a deep dive.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you. You know what's really fun? When we started this, I think it was 2008 that we went on the air. Yeah. And my daughter had not been born yet. And now my daughter is 16. And so it's very fun playing mom, talking to someone. Now Candace is a whole different person to me. Like I kind of imagine. And now I'm like, oh, I kind of know this person in 3 dimensions. Isn't it weird, Ashley, now that you have kids doing it too?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that it's funny. We were in the studio the other day doing press, and Vincent was like doing a little like IG story, and he did his voice, and he showed Dan doing his voice, and he's like, and Swampy's here, and he did his voice, and then he came to me, and I just said hi. So it's like, honestly, I'm like, literally, Candace is my voice. I think the only difficult thing is Candace's craziness has so much energy. So when I was younger, it was so easy to tap into that. Obviously, right. I'm older and I have 2 kids. And to be honest, the whole season, last season, I was pregnant with my second. And all I kept thinking was, I really hope this baby understands this is not real life outside. It was like screaming and crazy. And it was just like, I could only imagine her in my womb being like, what is happening out there? But
my mom is really high strung.
Your daughter was watching like episodes from the womb. Yes. I know we're not supposed to do an aside, but you're so brilliant as Candace, and that's been so much fun watching episodes. You are, I mean, everybody. But
it was really funny too. Actually, the other day, I thought I was pulling one over Dan and Swampy, and I said to Vincent, I said, I never read a script before I come into work. And Vincent goes, what? And I was like, I never prepared a script. Like I never read the script. I always just came in, and I still do today. I just come in and I start reading the lines. And I was like, Dan and Swampy didn't know that. And Dan goes, yeah, we did.
I said, it didn't matter because it works so well. There's no way we were going to mess with it.
It's the genius.
I don't care how you get there. It's fantastic. Yeah. I'm just going to let it go.
And I'm just thrilled to be involved with this wonderful family of people, to have been invited in to play. That's, to me, getting to come back to it after a couple of little things in between, and now to be a part of the series proper. I thank my lucky stars.
Now you're fully adopted by the family.
Yeah.
Like, we're signed. You're our Ferb.
Absorbed.
All the legal papers have gone through. What I think is funny, especially with Allison and Vincent, when we started with them, they were kids, little kids.
Yeah.
And now they're fully grown people and all that. And somebody said, are you going to be able to have the same actors back to do the voices? And it's like, they've been doing it the whole time.
Yeah.
They'll probably be doing it long after I'm gone.
Yes.
There's 2001 million days of summer vacation.
Yeah.
May you speak that into existence.
Great, thank you. Timur with Comics Beat.
Thanks. So I've been looking at a lot of the TV shows I've been watching the past year, like Squid Game, Severance, and
We're
and
different
so
than
much
other shows.
Not that much different.
I was gonna say, but it's television. There's so much doom and gloom. So something like Phineas and Ferb, there's a much needed relief to have something that's really positive out there. So I'd love to know for you, if there is how it feels to create and experience something that puts out such joy and positive feelings into the world.
Well, that was something we decided early on as part of the, like, what is this show really going to be? And we wanted it to be a super positive show. And we even made this decision to not have anybody ever be motivated by meanness, to never have Phineas and Ferb trying to get away with something. There's never any subterfuge on their parts. And it was a harder way to get comedy because a lot of the writers we would hire had been on a lot of shows where the easiest place to go for comedy is to be mean or to be shocking or to be negative. And when we took those tools out of their tool chest, it was a little confusing for them for a bit. But we felt like, I think it'll be a more interesting show if we don't do the easy laugh. If we go, if we try to make people laugh without using the easiest things in the toolbox.
And we've heard from almost every single person who's ever written on the show that it's the hardest show they've ever written on because of that, but also the most rewarding and the most fun. Because it eliminates the easy solution that you're used to. And so you really have to think and be clever. But
And I think that's a lot of what people respond to and why they love the show so much. It's authentically positive. It's not inane. It's smart, and it's human, and it's positive. And people believe in that. They need that. They want that. And this show just delivers it so beautifully.
I think that is why it took us so long to find our Phineas. Vincent was like the last person cast because we had gone through a whole bunch of people and people would, we'd try to describe the character and to people, and they would put on this positive sort of sounding voice, but it always sounded like it was put on and therefore masking some real negativity somewhere. And we just wanted somebody who sounded like genuinely happy about everything. And Vincent came in, and as soon as we heard his voice next to that drawing, we were like, finally.
It was the specific line in the pilot episode where the guy says, "Aren't you a little young to be a roller coaster engineer?" And
yes, yes, I am.
And when you hear Vincent say it, it sounds like, "Oh, thank you for noticing." And everybody else who said it sounded like, "Yeah, screw you." It just sounded cocky and arrogant. And Vincent made it sound like, "Oh, cool, you noticed, thanks."
Well, I appreciate the compliment. Thank you so much.
I want to ask the journalist, because it's just so interesting to me when you are asking these questions. Will you tell us like how old you were and when you started watching the show? Because my friend is 41, and he was just saying to me he cannot wait for it to come back. Literally loved it, and this is what it meant to him. So I'm always curious because of what age this really, really like hit.
Understand, Caroline, you have some very strange friends, though.
I do. And all of them. So there you go. So how old, where's our reporter? I can't find anybody on Zoom. I feel like I'm playing blind bingo. Here we are. Who asked the question? I want to know how old they were.
From Comics Beat.
To ask that?
So we just need to unmute him.
There he is.
Here we are. Hi. I was actually in college, 19. So yeah, like pretty old, not a kid exactly, but youngish. So 19, and now I'm 37.
Nice.
But a lot of college kids started watching this. That's really unbelievable. Like that you got that audience and they still love it. And it's probably a drinking game.
It is.
Every time Isabella says, "What you doing?"
Okay. And then in places where they don't drink, they only drink when mom figures it out.
All right, Judy with the Hollywood Times. We can go to you next.
Hi. I'll say I'm 65 and my grandson was 5 when he started watching it.
Oh.
So there you go. This question is for all of you. How do you all maintain your character voice without breaking or coughing?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I mean, I think everyone's process is different. But I knew because I've been working on the show so long, and because I started on the show when I was a teenager, and I've always been doing a character voice, like as you guys just heard, it's not my natural voice. I did a lot of voice lessons and vocal lessons. Like I studied with an opera coach to figure out different ways to utilize different warm-up techniques and how to extend my range in different ways. And so I did my best to do as much preparation as I could do to make sure that I could not just use this voice for all the conversational things that Phineas has to do, but I sing a lot of music on the show, and so I have to sing a lot as Phineas. We build things that are very loud and very big, and we are in the sky a lot, and I have to be yelling for a lot of these sessions. So it's something that I took a lot of. I intentionally took a lot of work with it and made sure I could do it. But then I also just learned a lot from working with a lot of these really talented voice actors, like and looking at their process and seeing what works for other people. So it's been a lot of different things for me personally. I don't know about you guys though.
Yeah, I warm up.
I feel like such a slacker now.
Yeah, I didn't. I watched some old videos of Walter Cronkite.
Oh, is that who he is?
That's who I stole the voice from, Walter Cronkite.
Yes. It's
my
bad impression of
Walter Cronkite. The funny thing is now too, Vincent was talking again. A couple of the actors, Vince and Allison in particular, were really young when we started, so we weren't using them as other characters. But now, in the new seasons coming up, like Vincent it appears in tons of episodes as lots of other people because his natural voice is so different now from his kid voice. Allison's the same. She used to just be able to do Isabella, but now, Lady in Store, all these different miscellaneous characters. We have them doing all these other voices.
Yeah.
I love getting to come into the booth and they're like, "You're not just playing Phineas today. We actually have like 5 other characters.
We need you to be a Drusselsteinian traffic cop." Yeah,
that's such a fun. It's like it's a really fun like acting exercise too, to have no idea who these characters are about to be, and they're like, "Now make a different voice."
A lot of people ask if Doofenshmirtz hurts my voice, which he doesn't really. Like I can do Doof for 2 hours straight, pretty easily. Monogram, because it's so low in Swampy's voice, he can do about 45 minutes before it starts to hurt. And when we did Milo Murphy's Law, we sort of switched that over, where I was the low guy who would talk down here like this, and I could only do that for about 40 minutes before it would hurt. But Doofenshmirtz is all head voice, so it doesn't really hurt my vocal. It sounds like it hurts. It's a very painful, but it's more painful to listen to, I think.
And
but it's so much fun to try and imitate.
Yes.
I definitely make sure that I warm up for about 2.5, 3 hours so that I don't hurt myself when I come in and work for 3 minutes.
Yes.
I just
Some days we have 2 lines for you.
I have this thing this year that all I'm doing is I talk as calmly as possible, because in my mind, I just think that the therapist has told me, don't let on that your daughter's crazy. That's okay. Fine, totally fine, honey.
And also, obviously for me, it's my natural voice, a little bit higher, but I think I early on realized that the energy, like I said, for Candace, it takes so much. It is a workout. So from I think season 1 on, I remember doing like, okay, I could do 3-hour sessions, I could do 4-hour, and then finally I was like, oh no, I could only do 2-hour sessions. Like otherwise, I get exhausted, and then like Candace is just not Candace, and so and Dan and Swampy have been always so good to me because I scream so much. We have so many screams in the library. And so I think like maybe do 1 scream each session, and Swampy's we've got years of you screaming. It's fine.
We have a whole file on the computer that's just Ashley screaming.
Short, medium, long, terrified, excited, every type of scream you could imagine.
Yeah, you don't need to scream for us anymore. Save your voice. We have those.
Thank you all so much.
Noma from IOL.
Hello, everyone. So my question is to Dan and Jeff. You guys spoke about, Australia and how you guys get recognized. Just talk to me about the original, the global success of the show. Did you guys expect it?
Well, we found out when the show launched. Also, I think it's funny when people call me Jeff. I keep thinking my mom's here.
I know. I was like, who's Jeff?
Who's you talking to?
But when we launched the show, we found out we had the first global launch of Disney TVA. It premiered all over the world at the same time on the same day, which was really amazing and wonderful, and it really showed Disney's support for the show. But as a result, it all kind of lit up at once. And I'm shocked at how many places I have traveled around to where it is just as popular as it is here, if not more so.
Yeah.
And I haven't really experienced anything like that with any of the other stuff that I've done. So it is kind of weird to be in a obscure little tiny village somewhere and you find somebody who's a huge fan of the show.
Yeah.
And then I call both of you and have you do voices for me from
Yes,
a small
she does.
country.
That's true.
Hi, can you
I'm in outer Mongolia. Do the doof voice. Do monogram.
When we were doing the first season, I was working just ridiculous hours. I would get in like 8 in the morning and leave at 11 at night, pretty much every day. And I told my ex-wife at the time, I said, I feel like we could make a show that's funny enough to get a second season, and still leave it like 7 every day. But that's not what I'm shooting for. This is like, how often do you get a chance to make your own show? What I'm shooting for is changing the demographic of Disney Channel, because I had been on SpongeBob when it changed the demographic of Nickelodeon. I'd been on The Simpsons when it changed the demographic of Fox. I felt like that's the high water mark that you need to shoot for. And within 3 months of it being on the air, they were already writing articles about how we had changed the demographic of Disney Channel. And to me, that's, it's like I was shooting for that. I didn't know if we would hit it. I just thought, like, if I shoot for that, at least we'll get a second season. And it, I think the success really far surpassed what we thought we were going to get.
Can I say Sabrina's been on the air since 1996, pretty much everywhere in the country, in the world, every day for like a long, long time. And I will go on stage and get introduced from that show, and they're like, okay, yay. But I will say that I'm on Phineas and Ferb, and the entire universe is like, like I suddenly have the attention of 30-year-old boys. It surpasses everything.
You're welcome, Caroline.
Thank you very much. I'll freeze them until Ava's old enough.
Okay.
Great. Next up, we can go to Kristen from Pop Culture Planet.
That actually perfectly teed up the question that I had, which is, you guys have all really helped shape the Disney legacy over the course of your careers. And, now with Phineas and Ferb, reaching a brand new generation, I was curious what it means to you now versus when you first started. And also just, for fun, if any of your past characters could guest star in this new iteration, who would you want to see in there?
It's kind of funny for us. When Dan and I first started doing the development here, there was a lot of people at the channel who really liked the show and said it was funny. but had said to us, I don't think it's going to make it on Disney Channel. It was very different from what was being produced at the time, and the behind the scenes opinion was it's not really a Disney show. It didn't look like anything else. And it was so wonderful personally to, a year after the show premiered, to have people tell us that Phineas and Ferb was being held up as kind of the perfect vision of a Disney show. Mm. And that just brought ultimate joy to my heart, because we always thought it was. I always thought it had the virtues that, the family viewing, all that stuff that we grew up with, like people Dan and my age, watching The Wonderful World of Disney. And so to have that turnaround was really, really gratifying and validated all of the things that we really fought for in the show. So that was just sort of a strange turn.
Great. Daniel with Music City Drive-In.
Hi, how are you all today?
Lovely.
So my question is for the cast. You touched on it a bit earlier, but I was wondering, is there a certain scene, line, or movement you find harder to record or more challenging to record than other scenes or lines in the show?
Shouting Ferb. Anytime that they want him to shout, he's just such a chill guy. And we explore it a lot of times where it's like, oh yeah, let's get one where he's like really projecting here. And then almost invariably Swampy will kind of go, do it the other way. Just do it the other way.
Yeah. Well, Ferb doesn't even really change expressions. Not only does he not talk a lot, but his expression sheet for angry and sad and happy is all the same drawing. So we try to keep him pretty neutral. I
don't know. What about you guys, the voice actors? What's hard for you guys? I mean, for me, Monogram is singing. It's really hard to sing as Monogram.
Yeah, for me, I mean, the only things that end up becoming really vocally taxing are when we have a very loud invention and all of my lines are kind of, because Phineas does a lot of he's such the idea guy, he's a lot of times, giving direction to the gang and to all the friends. And so a lot of times I'm kind of like yelling, not orders, but instructions at different people over the sound of this really loud invention. And so that can be a little vocally tough. And then the music isn't hard for me. The music is like exciting for me. I feel like I learned something new about what I can do vocally with the music on the show, because we do so many genres of music. Is they'll come to me and they're like, so this week you're gonna be rapping. And I'm like, am I? That's something I am not known to do. And so it's it doesn't like, it's not vocally like stressful or something. It's just more so I'm learning about, different things I can do vocally, which is specific to this show, how many genres of music we do.
Allison, I've actually been wondering and I've never remembered to ask you, how easy is it for you to get into that Isabella pitch range?
Isabella flies high in the sky
and
never comes down to the ground. And Dan, sometimes I get worried that every new episode I will have forgotten how to reach the notes. And recently Dan was like, you've been doing this voice for 20 years. Do you really think that your vocal cords are not stretched enough, or the musculatures don't have this memorized? But I do a lot of specific vocal warm-ups for Isabella that are different from other characters. I will say that I can't give away any spoilers, but there has been opportunities in this new seato showcase different dimensions of Isabella, which have required me to discover new there are new emotions in Isabella's landscape. So that
well danced around, Allison. I'm
well danced around.
Am I
nailed it?
Allison is a professional
totally
dancer.
run for political office. That was like
Thank you.
That was very good.
You know what's really funny? The directions you get as a voice actor, especially from Swampy, because he's directing. It's like taller. What? You're wearing very heavy shoes, and you're running from a car. You're like,
I had a voice actor one time. In fact, it was Mark and Brian who used to do a popular radio show. I gave a direction to Brian, and I don't remember what it was, but he gave me exactly the read I wanted. And as soon as he did it, he looked up and he said, "What you said to me made no sense at all.
Yeah.
And yet I knew what you wanted." And I said, "And you gave it to me." But it was like I said to him, "Bucket pumpkin slough."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for Candace, I think the hardest scenes are just like when I start to ramp up into busting them, which is all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, here she blows, here we go. She just kind of starts to get crazy. But I think the best part about animations, especially with Candace, it's like it's really limitless on how crazy I can get. And I think that's just so fun. And Dan and Swampy are so great. Like I think my favorite thing is to be in the studio and watch them react to how I do it. And then I know I nailed it. I'm like, when I have Swampy and Dan just like laughing so hard, I'm like, okay, we're here. We've got it.
You know, it's funny you say some of my favorite stuff with you, as Candace, is when you have conversations with Stacy. Because it is this whole other side, and all of a sudden there's this just, great kind of Candace. She's all over the place thinking and imagining. So she's out here. And they're really great moments because it is the opposite of what you're doing when you're busting.
Yeah.
And that's to me is a lot of fun.
Yes.
Great. We can move on to Juliet from Celeb Secrets. Just flagging, we have less than 10 minutes left, so we can try to do a little lightning round.
Only yes, no answers.
Hi, guys. My question is there like a fan favorite moment or line from the original that still cracks you up or gets quoted at you all the time?
There's the thing that I hear the most, just because it's become part of pop culture for that generation, is if I had a nickel for every time I blank, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right? Which is from the first movie we did. Yeah. And I have a friend who's a professor at a college in the Midwest who texted me out of the blue and said, "Oh my God, I've been hearing people use this bit over and over again in all of my classes for years. And I just finally found out that that's Doofenshmirtz. I had never seen that one." And he was like, "That's you. These people are quoting you when they do this." And, and people have used it online, like the Democratic Party, their official Twitter used, or their official TikTok used that for something recently. And I was like, oh, that one has permeated pop culture in a very weird way.
I feel like I've offered pie to people than more waitresses at Denny's. Think would anyone like pie?
Yes.
Which again, in my character's mind, it's her therapist saying, "Try the pie. It calms the kids down."
Yes, that's exactly.
Like pie?
I love to see the new ways that people engage with a platypus. Perry the platypus, just like the myriad of options that we've seen.
It's devolved so much that they'll just have anything that's teal and orange and then put something brown on it. And it'll be a platypus. Perry the platypus. It's just broken down to its very basic form. I love that.
Great. Steve with Bionic Buzz, we can take you next.
I love the titles of these things. What's Bionic Buzz?
It sounds exciting.
Yeah, it is. My question's for Swampy and Dan. With a new generation checking out the show, can you tell us the origin story of the creation and the unique designs of the heads for Phineas and Ferb?
Well, Swampy and I were writing together on a show on another network.
Another network show.
And, as they say. And we really liked writing together and wanted to create a show that we could, like together, so that we could continue to work together. And we went through a whole bunch of different designs, different, like at one point we had meerkats, at one point we had a toucan and something, something else. And then I was just at dinner with my ex-wife, and we were and they gave you butcher paper and crayons to doodle while you're waiting for your food.
For children.
And I had a purple crayon, and I just drew this big triangle and said, I wonder if I could make a character whose head was shaped like a triangle, because I had never seen that. And I drew it, and I loved it. And I drew it like 2 more times, and my ex-wife said, "Ooh, who is that?" And my actual words I said to her, the first thing that I said about it was like, "This is Phineas. This is the show that we're going to sell someday." And
what year was that?
This was 1993. And I went home and I drew Perry the Platypus and Ferb and Doofenshmirtz that night and brought them into work, and we built the whole show around those original drawings.
And it was really the basis for what we wanted to do. Was Dan and I always say it's kind of having a middle-aged rant, as middle-aged guys will do, about how kids today didn't get out and do the stuff we did. We were like, they just sit in and watch videos and play video games. And we used to go out and build things and do things and put on plays in our backyard and build go-karts and roll them down hills. And a lot of stuff that we don't advise children to do because it's dangerous and crazy. But we kind of wanted to have that spirit back of what we did in the summer. And that was kind of the basis for the whole show.
Yeah, remember when you just got like put outside and you were like, come back in when it's dark?
Yeah, I don't want to see you until I'm calling you in for dinner.
Right, exactly.
It's called benevolent neglect.
Yes.
We had access to tools as well. It was great.
All kinds of stuff.
All right, Victoria with Animation World Network.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for chatting with us. It's been fun listening to kind of all of your individual family stories, how it's woven into the show over the years, because the show has lasted for many, many years. I want to know, and that's sort of a foundation of many Disney Channel shows, is the family unit, whatever that looks like. I'm curious, what are some of your, in the show favorite family moments, and that you still think about as your families grow and evolve and change, that you think about from the show that still stick with you?
Well, I think Swampy and I both really love the episode "Dude, We're Getting the Band Back Together" was the first time we had Candace and Phineas and Ferb working together for the same goal. And there's a moment at the end of that where Candace just puts her arm around Phineas in this like really sisterly love way. And I love it whenever we get to see how much they really care about each other. And we do it all, we do it a lot, not as often in the 11-minute episodes, because they're sort of, it's like we pit them against each other in a sort of fun way. But whenever we get to see that always just, it's like when at the end of Summer Belongs to You, when we wrote this song "Summer Belongs to You" at the end, it's sort of summing up the whole feel of the series. And we'd written one verse and a chorus, and then on the way into work the next day, I was like, wait a minute, we need to give Candace a verse where she talks about how proud she is of her brothers and how
already.
They helped her and stuff like that. And
are you crying?
It makes me cry when I watch that. It's so good. So
I think that's the best song we've ever, like, in my personal opinion, I think it's the best song we've ever done on the show for exactly what you're talking about. Is I mean, it's obviously it's like a really catchy pop song, but the fact
I still remember there was this
together.
There was a really sweet moment that came. It was an ad lib from Richard O'Brien, who plays Dad, and it was the monster truck episode, and he calls Dad calls Mom to say, hello dear, the boys are building a monster truck in the backyard, and Mom doesn't understand, but Richard just ad-libbed. He said, hello, darling. Oh, I love you too, dear. Anyway, and he just threw it out there. But it was this wonderful moment where it suddenly made that family real and that relationship really alive.
Yeah.
And when we get those little moments in the midst of all this insanity, these wonderful real connection moments, like, you know, the hug with Candace, these little it really, I love watching those, and every time I see them, I smile.
Yeah, thank you so much. I don't know if the cast has anything else to say, but Dan, thank you for for crying. I have a 3-year-old daughter, so
I'm an easy cry.
Yeah.
I cried at an AT&T
softie.
commercial earlier. It's a low bar.
I can add in the most diplomatic of ways that perhaps in the first episode of the new season, there will be quite a powerful moment for the family in ways you can't even fathom. The end.
Yet.
Well delivered.
All right.
That's why she's a dancer.
We are unfortunately at time for the press conference, but thank you everyone for joining. We appreciate it.